Hey guys, welcome to Love and Bow Hunter. I'm Tyler, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you guys basic scouting techniques for a new area. These techniques should work for most, if not all, animals, but today we're primarily focusing on the white-tailed deer. Of course, we live in the state of Iowa, so a lot of the signs that we're looking for are of course going to be for white-tailed deer. So there are going to be 5 main things I'm going to be looking for. I'm going to look for a family trail, a secondary trail, otherwise known as a buck trail. I'm going to be looking for scrapes, rubs, and a bedding area. Of course, once I establish those 5 things, then I'm going to kind of hone in on certain areas, and in a future video I'll give you guys some advanced techniques on trying to really pinpoint and locate where these deer are actually traveling. So we're going to move up to the first thing, which is the family trail. So I believe we have established the family trail of the area. A few things to look for when you're trying to establish if it's a family trail are the amount of tracks, and well, I guess it'd correlate with the amount of traffic that's rolling through, and the size of the tracks. You're going to find a lot smaller tracks on the family trails because you're going to be finding a lot more does and fawns. The secondary trails or the buck trails are going to be off the sides of the family trail. These bucks are going to use cover concealment to cover their movement through an area, and we are in a natural choke point. So once you establish where the family trail is, then you can kind of kick off the sides and determine where these buck trails are. To determine if it's a buck trail, you're going to be looking for the other 2 signs. You're going to be looking for scrapes and rubs. If you find a rub line or a scrape line, there's a good chance that there's 1 or more bucks traveling through the area. So we're gonna move off one side of the trail, or it's kind of hard to determine which side to move off of. So just kind of kick off one side, search. If you don't find anything, kick off the other side and search. You'll most likely find that secondary trail. So the family trail, as it runs through, it cuts right through the path of least resistance going through this tree grove. There's an old four-wheeler trail that runs through, so of course these does and fawns are going to go through the path of least resistance. So I'm going to kick off the side and look for the secondary trail and other buck signs. As here, you got a nice little, actually a pretty fresh rub. And how you determine if it's a fresh rub or not is you'll find pieces of the bark laying on the ground, and that is super fresh. And there's also a not so predominant trail going up this hill. So we'll kind of follow this trail up, and we'll kick up this way. I don't know if you guys can see it on camera or not. I don't know if you're too low in that little divot. So as we move up this way, you can see a trailhead here. So what we'll do, we'll bring the camera up this way, and we'll search through this secondary trail and see what kind of sign we can find. So now that we found a trail off of the edge of the family trail, you want to travel up it and determine if it's a secondary buck trail or not. So as I travel up the trail a little bit, I'm looking for signs. Immediately, right off the bat, I see a rub here, there's a rub here, there's a rub there, there's a rub there. So immediately that tells me that bucks are traveling up and down this trail off to this side. So we'll have Caden pop the camera off the tripod, and I'll have him follow me up this trail, and I'll kind of give you guys some pointers on what to look for with scrapes and rubs. Now that we moved up this secondary buck trail, I'm going to be looking at signs. First thing we look for are rubs, especially inside of a timbered area. Along field edges, I'm going to be looking for scrapes. So how to determine if a rub is fresh or not is by the color, and if it looks wet or not. As you can tell, this looks decently wet, so this tells me this is only a few days old. Now this rub over here looks a little bit drier. This is going to tell me this probably hasn't been hit in a few weeks. I can see some sign that has been hit this year, but it's not that fresh. As with this one over here, this one's fresh. It looks, the color's vibrant. It actually goes all the way around. Looks like he's hooking his antler around it and going up and down. So once I start finding some rubs, I'll continue down the trail. I'll continue looking for rubs, and I'll also be looking for scrapes. So as I'm moving through, you can see that there is a lot more cover in this area. There's actually another trail coming through the logs right here. Let me turn and look. You can see the trail that kind of hops over that log. This would tell me that this is definitely a secondary buck. So as you keep moving down, you keep canning. And of course, if you're in an area you're hunting, you're going to be looking for deer also. If you see deer, of course, that means there's deer in the area, right? As you move down, and I'm looking around, and I see another rub down here with another trail cutting through this thicker brush. So to me, there's a lot of buck sign. Move down, there's a nice scrape here. So now that we found a scrape, I can tell you and show you what fresh sign on a scrape looks like. Let me come down. So the easiest way to explain a scrape to new hunters, or to the new generation of hunters, this is basically Facebook for deer. That was the easiest way I could explain it to people, is that the bucks will mark it, and they'll use a licking tree up here. As the does come through an area, if the does are hot to trot during the rut, they will mark these. They'll mark the scrapes, and as the bucks move back through the area, they'll be checking these for hot signs for hot does. And like I said, this is like Facebook for deer. That's probably the best analogy for the new generation of hunters. And how to tell if it's recently been hit by a buck, you'll see lines that are marked through it where these deer are scraping the ground with their hooves. And also, a way you can tell if it's fresh or not is by the smell. If it smells like black licorice, that means there's a hot doe in the area, and you might want to get in there as soon as possible to hunt. So over this scrape, if it smelled like black licorice, I would start searching for a tree to hang a stand in. I can make a video down the road determining where to hang a stand for the sign or the trails that you find. So this scrape is actually pretty fresh. There's a lot of tracks moving through it. I don't see much scraping through it, so that tells me that a buck hasn't hit this recently. I actually found some scrapes out on the field edge that I can show you what fresh sign looks like in a scrape. So we've moved probably 30 yards or so. That other scrape is back up in the timber up that way, and we're sitting on a field edge now. And when you're looking for fresh sign, this is what fresh sign looks like in a scrape. As you can see there, you can see the scrape marks rolling through. And if you look at, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 scrapes that I can see from here. So you can definitely tell there's a scrape line. There's also a rub line moving through this timber. So you know there is at least one or more bucks rolling through. This would give me a good idea of where these deer are going to be moving through. So after I find my family trail, I find my secondary trail, I find my rubs, and I find my scrapes, next thing I'm going to be looking for is where these deer are going to be bedded. And if you look over, these deer are going to want to bed and stuff like this, the weeds that are along the river, right? And if you follow this family trail up, there's actually a small patch of trees up on the hillside. And they're also up over that way on top of the hill. There is a bunch of grass and small trees and stuff. These deer aren't going to bed where they can't see stuff coming up to them. They're going to sleep where they can see predators moving towards them. So if you can determine where the bedding area is, where the scrapes are, where the rubs are, where the trails are, then you can go into your more advanced and narrow in on where to place your stand to at least possibly kill a buck. The next step after I determine where all this is at, I'm going to throw up a trail camera on the secondary trail and also on the family trail, so I can start getting pictures and start getting an idea of the caliber of deer moving through this area. So guys, I've shown you what I look for when I'm scouting a new area. Hopefully this video helps you new hunters, and if you're an experienced hunter watching this, hopefully you've learned some stuff. Especially with my analogies, I have a think outside the box mentality. So like I said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys like my content, make sure to subscribe and like the video. And be on the lookout for the advanced scouting techniques. If you like this video, that video will go more into depth on stand placement, camera placement, stuff like that. As always guys, hunt smart, hunt safe, and I'll see you in the next one.